All right, how is everybody today? Just say a good morning to those of you in the States. In Europe, I guess you're kind of getting ready to wind down your afternoon, and out here in Asia, we are kind of in late evening for us. So thank you for joining me out here today. This is the Tradewithufos Nailing FX US session. And we are now live. And my name is Andrew Han. You can reach me at andrew@tradewithufos.com. And of course, this is the FX Street live video sessions that a team of us, myself, Opa, Pedro, and Ronaldo are scheduled for these particular dates here. So this week on the 11th, and I'm going to be back here again on the 25th. But in the meantime, between those other two dates, we have Opa and Pedro on the 19th. Pedro's tomorrow, and then Ronaldo, he had his session last week on the 7th. So hopefully you're able to join them. Okay. If not, you can always join us on our YouTube sessions, right? So we have sessions every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. If you do need to see the full calendar, you can always go to the website at tradewithufos.com. Okay, so let's move on to, now I just want to make sure, we are recording, I hope. Okay, so let's move on to just the disclaimers. Okay, just read it as it's generating above here. Okay, and let's just jump into our session here. Okay, so kind of starting off this new month, one of the things that I want to start to do is provide a little bit more structure and insight into kind of how I kind of view the markets and how I've kind of come to understand how to share the markets with people in some of the training classes that we do at Trade with UFOs, and being a pilot myself, I've got I'm not like a commercial pilot or anything, but I do have my private pilot's license that I've gained third class, and so I can fly single engine airplanes. It's kind of fun. I haven't done that for a little while now, but I like to look at my trading through this sort of lens, and so increasingly in these 1 hour sessions, I just like to kind of showcase and highlight some of the ways that I look at the markets through this lens of an aviator. And hopefully that could give you also some insights into how you can also interpret the market in your own way. So what I'd like to kind of cover in my sessions would be elements of that way of thinking. Okay, so just like traveling, we need to have a plan when it comes to trading, and we need to look at things from the big picture level, right? Because commonly when, if you're doing a flight plan, you need to look at things from a big picture level, but also need to understand how things look at the ground level, And so commonly you have these aeronautical charts where you, as a pilot, plan out where you are going to go and also what sort of obstacles in the way and things like that, right? And, no fly zones, you can't fly over, military bases or get too close to military bases and things like that, for obvious reasons. And also there are, sensitive government sites which, you need to stay clear of. And so at the big picture level, we need to, know where things are at. But also at the ground level, I mean, you need to know, at the airport that you're originating from or that you're heading towards. You need to know also the layout of that airport, where the runways are, where is the terminal, where are the taxiways, where is the, the onboarding and offboarding locations that passengers embark and disembark your airplane, right? So it's the same with trading. I mean, you need to know where, you're going to enter, you're going to exit, your trade. And so these sort of, concepts and elements I just kind of like to, apply to my own sort of trading and helps me to understand and filter things, well for me. So if that's helpful to you, then then you may also like to adopt this sort of, view of trading as well. Okay, so I like to really start with, the macro big picture. So this is the euro. This is a weekly chart. The euro, you tend to use for planning the higher time frames because it does filter out a lot of the noise, right? And you also know that, hey, each bar in this case is a week. That's a week worth of transactions. And as you can see, the movement from, the, say 125.50, all the way down to, that low, that recent low that we saw at 106.30, right? It took a couple of years, for that to occur, right? So from 2018 all the way down to 2020 where we are now, it's a couple of years for that whole thing to transpire, right? And currently, as we move from that low up until the more recent highs, right? That also has taken a significant amount of time to occur. I mean, these were back in February, March, when we had those lows, and here we are in mid-August. Very, many months later that it took price to get up here, right? So this helps us see, well, where did we come from, but where are we going? Are we heading towards this prior high, right? Or are we going to put in a lower high here and head lower, right? So is this a high? This is a low. This is a lower high, and are we expecting to see, in the future, some sort of lower movement in price, in the next couple of years? Right? Well, we don't know. We'll have to see. Right? We'll have to see how price responds, from this point forward, right? But what helps me to at least identify some of those points of destination and origin, right, is the technology that we have available, with Tradewithufos, which is auto UFOs. So if I just throw that even on the higher time frame charts here, right, it helps us to identify where those areas are for where sellers are interested in selling, right? The market players, where do they want to sell, and where do they want to buy? And so we have, on this weekly perspective, areas of of high concentrations or potentially high concentrations of buy orders, right? Down here at 110, also down here at 114.22, we have a concentration of sell orders here at between 119.95 or 96 and 118.20, 22, 23, right? So why is price kind of pausing here? Well, it's got to get through these sell orders in order to get back up to these prior highs up here at 121.55 and 124. Let's call it 75, right? So that's where there's also some sell orders, but it needs to get through this area of concentration here in order to move higher, right? So we're probably going to get some sort of pause here, right? But to expect price to move higher, we definitely have to break through that that, even if you call this psychological level of 120, right? It's going to need to break through there in order to move up towards these prior highs, so let's just call it 125, okay? Conversely, if price is going to move lower, right, it's probably going to have some sort of pause here at back at 114.25, say, and again, for price to move back down towards 110, it needs to break that 111.60, let's call it 70 sort of area, right? If we're going to get lower prices, and so what this does now is help us to we identify the origination, identify the destination, and also helps us to do some what if scenarios type of planning, right? And that's important because especially at this macro perspective, right? You want to know whether you also want to be somebody who wants to continue to buy, or or is the conditions more conducive to sell, or is there some sort of change in trend going on, right? So this is what some of the questions that commonly asked, and that the auto UFOs helps to answer, and not just at this macro level, but also at the micro level as well. So let's say that you understand the bigger picture, that hey, look, we are undergoing some sort of definite move up in price, but we're moving into an area where we are going to have a pause in that upward moving price. And so, okay, how do I, with that understanding, look for opportunities that give me that bias to maybe consider selling, right? What do I need to see for there to be lower prices, right? And that would be breaking of the 116, 117 area, or if prices are going to continue higher, then we clearly have to break the prior highs of 119.15, right? So the question is, well, where are our entry points and exit points into this market, right? What are the barriers that are preventing higher prices or lower prices from going on, right? And so here again, this is where we can throw on the auto UFOs, and it gives us that those locations where, okay, if we're starting to see potentially lower prices, right? And so we have basically a sideways trading action at this point, right? If we do start to see lower prices, then we need to see this as a lower high, right? And then move towards and break that 1965, right? And so this is really these are somewhat psychological barriers, prior lows, but these are actual barriers that are in the way of lower prices, right? and these UFOs, these unfilled orders on the sell side, are barriers to higher prices, right? And so here we have a larger concentration of unfilled sell orders, and so we're going to have to chew through these this area of these areas of interest for price in order for prices to move higher, and then it needs to clear this area of concentration of unfilled orders before moving any higher past 119.15, right? So again, being able to identify those areas, right, also gives us an opportunity to identify some entry points into the market. Do we like this as an entry point, or do we prefer to sell it at higher prices, right? If we're buyers, right, do we want to be buyers down here at 16.55, or is it somewhere lower? But what this is also telling me is that, hey, if price does start to move lower, then more than likely there is a possibility that these prior lows will not hold. There is an attraction towards these lower prices and price action as well. As we can see, we're getting lower highs all the time, lower highs, right? Lower lows, right? So do we have at least a temporary pullback, from that very strong move in price that we saw previously, right? So again, this is the big picture, right? We had very strong weekly moves. I mean, these are very strong moves, and maybe what we're just seeing is just a pullback. Will we see a pullback all the way to 114.25? Well, we'll see, right? But this is also where you can apply other strategies, other technology, to your decision making. And so that's the great thing about the auto UFOs, is that it's compatible to existing strategies. If you use moving averages, if you use Fibonacci's, if you use any sort of other technology, right? Your own strategies themselves, right? The auto UFOs is compatible, to that in that regards, right? And you can apply it to any market, any style, and really anyhow, anywhere, right? These are algorithms, right, which are programmed, which give consistent calculations, right, across all of these different markets, and relate to any sort of time frame. So that's one of the benefits of this technology, right, is that it is a very compatible with the different trading styles and markets that people are involved with these days, even cryptos, right? Even cryptos. So let me just take a pause here, and let's go to the charts themselves. Okay. So here is the euro, which we were just looking at in those slides, and on the 1 hour, right? And if I just flick these on, okay, and TradingView is great for for all of, you've got so many, right? You've got so many different indicators to choose from. You can create your own stuff as well. Fantastic platform to be able to do that. And multiple data feeds, right? So we see here we've had some, oops, back here. Okay, we're still having some reaction to these UFOs here, this cell UFO area. So I'm just going to highlight that. And how many of you are here for the first time in my Nailing FX US sessions? I just type there in the chat if if this is one of the first times you've been in my session, or if this is the first time you've been in any of our nailing FX sessions with whether it be with Pedro or Bert, Opa, Ronaldo, is this your first time? Just maybe just type something in there for me. And again, if there are any sort of questions that you have, feel free to also just type them in the chat as well, right? Okay. Okay. Well, while you're all getting your answers ready there, the let me just see here. Where is that little tool? I lost myself. Okay, so here's the rectangle. Okay, so I can see here there was an area of unfilled orders which price was responding to, and so yeah, we're looking at the weekly, right? So if we're just looking at the weekly, let me turn off the UFOs for 1 second here. Okay. Right. So if we are looking for some sort of retracement, right? So we can go to the Fibonacci retracements. Okay. And let's just say the standard retracements. Okay. And we did see here, right, some of these points here, right, on the chart. Right? So we're kind of hitting against this area of unfilled orders here, which is influencing price lower. So if we do get any sort of retracement, right, this is a 38 point, 2 retracement down to the 1425. So is that where price is going, right? Is that where price is going? We'll see, but we can highlight that area and just turn off these UFOs, okay? And also from a 4-hour perspective, right, get a little bit more details in here, versus the weekly chart or the daily chart. You get a little bit more detail of how price is moving, and so are we going to experience some sort of pullback here, right? And so again, price, if we anticipate price, go back here, we anticipate price, right, is going to do any sort of move towards, so 1425, right? Okay, we need to start to see, lower lows and lower highs occur, right? If we're going to move towards this weekly 38.2 retracement, right? The other scenario could be, well, we just go sideways, right? We could go sideways for a long time, right? There's nothing to say that price can't do that, right? The other scenario would be, hey, price is going to, continue higher, right? It's also a valid scenario, right? So in each scenario, whether it be up or sideways, right, or down, right, what is the plan, You know, what's your plan going to be for each of these different potentials, right? Potential outcomes, right? What are you going to have to see, right? If this is going to continue up, then you're going to have a higher high here, right? That needs to break this high, okay? And you need to see these higher lows, right? Trading above here, right? So that will give you a continued uptrend, right? If you are going to have some sort of sideways move, then really your highs and your lows, right? Your lows need to be, you know, around each other, right? And clearly, if you're going to have some sort of downtrend continuation, right, then you need to put in lower highs and lower lows, right? Whether they'll hit this target or not, hey, we don't know, right? But definitely, you know, you can plan out these different scenarios, right, in order to determine if price is, you know, how are you going to take action, right, based on these you know, various outcomes. Okay, so while technology is you know, is good, right? You can, you know, look at using technology to help you understand what is going on in the market, right? By identifying the areas where there's interest in selling, the areas where there is interest in buying, right? In particular, on the time frame that you are looking to trade, right? And make better decisions, right? You know, so one of the possibilities here, right? If we had, if we are looking for a movement lower in the euro, right? For that particular scenario, we may want to look at, you know, short positions here. And now it looks like we're putting in some more supply, sell orders. Okay. So if we had gotten short in here, you can at least now plan where your exit's going to be, where it makes sense, right? So you get a 3-to-1. 3-to-1 sort of trade is like this, okay, down here. But there's nothing that says that you can't, you know, scale out at this point and also have a second scale out point lower down, as close to 115, or even all the way down to, you know, 1425, right? And so then you have an 8-to-1 sort of trade. You know, but that's going to take a while for it to play out. It's going to take a while for it to play out, and then, you know, let's see what the narrative is that comes out in the markets themselves as well. You know, to encourage, is it encouraging price to move lower, you know, or is it encouraging price to move higher, you know, or is it in the opposite direction? I mean, you know, we know that news can send mixed messages, right? Or it's supposed to be, at least from the financial news perspective, they try to be neutral, right? And so they give opinions for both sides, and then you have to decide, you know, are you going to be a bull or are you going to be a bear, right? Are you going to be long euro or are you going to be short euro, you know? But what is the plan? You know, what is the plan? You know, as I went back here, let me just go back here, right? You know, so what is your plan, right? At the macro level, right? are you going to go? Are you going to take that short for a pullback? 38.2% retracement down to 14, right? Is that going to be your dominating view, or you're going to expect a shallow retracement if price over the next week or two, right, just ranges, right? Then maybe the opportunity is for a higher moving price, right? So again, you got to plan, and think accordingly, right? So this is kind of maybe more intermediate, in how you think about things. So maybe you're familiar with the currency markets. You know how to use technology, right? So you're not new to trading itself, right? So this sort of session, today's session, may help you in that regards, right? But if you are new, right? If you are new to the currency markets, this sort of concepts and ideas may be a little bit too advanced, but at the same time, useful to try and understand things at this point, right? Because you may be just trying to discover, well, what sort of style of trading should I apply to currencies, and so in this particular case, the approach, because we're looking at the higher time frame to do our analysis, a bigger picture analysis, and then we're going to a lower time frame to identify those opportunities to enter and exit the market, right? This would be more of a swing type of trade versus an intraday sort of trade style, right? Is what I'm currently looking at this point. But these are the fundamentals, the basics, are some of the things that we there are courses that we offer for training for that kind of help give you some of these fundamentals, in particular around using the trade with you of technology, the introduction into auto UFOs and auto climate, and how to apply that to a methodology. So if I can just take a moment to just quickly go down to the slides here, right? I mean, we in our course called Survival to Mastery in Action around Forex, we cover these concepts and this trade methodology, and we look at the different styles that are available to people from an intraday perspective, what timeframes are commonly used, from a swing perspective, position perspective, and also from an investor perspective. And we go through this trading flowchart. We go step by step to explain each step, so that for those of you who are beginners, right, you have a starting point. This is also helpful for those who are more at the intermediate level, right, where you can also adopt part of the methodology to your own trading, right? And then there are those who are more advanced. Well, if you're more advanced, you probably already have a well-developed methodology, and maybe you're looking for some technology to help, right? And so that's where we have our auto climate and auto UFO apps, right? But on that one, I mean, if you have any interest, there is a QR code here if you wanted to scan that. It'll bring you to a page where you're able to register your interest, and I can certainly provide you with more information on these apps, and also the training courses that we have available for anybody, whether you're a beginner or somebody who's a little bit more at the intermediate or even advanced stage of trading. That training is good. It's we kind of approach it as it's technical training in that sort of sense. So we don't price it at a price that is out of reach for anybody, because what's important is that if you're going to use our tools, our technology, that you are properly trained and understand how to use it and apply it in at least one particular way, right? But this is just an example of how I use it, right? From the bigger picture, getting the macro view, and then going down to this micro view to really plan where I'm going to enter and exit based on my bigger picture view of the market, right? So here we have euro. We had price move higher. It kind of responded to an area of selling, right, where unfilled orders are placed. And are we going to, so what's the plan, right? What's the plan here? We had those alternatives of moving higher or lower or sideways, and so let's say that we want, it's going to take a while, right? If we're going to move lower towards say 114.50, right? It's going to take a while, and so in the meantime, if we missed out on this particular opportunity, then what's really emerging is it looks like some sort of sideways sort of pattern, right? And so there may not be any immediate opportunity here for kind of miss the sell here on the buy side. We're not really seeing, so we're getting more sell UFOs here. And again, if we're getting more sell UFOs here coming in and supporting lower prices, then at this stage we're probably also looking for lower prices, and so to help us kind of get again that context, we can put on auto climate. Okay. All right, so auto climate, and let me just turn off auto UFOs for a little while. Let's go back up to the daily for some perspective. And so what we're seeing here, okay, is see these blue sapphire, solid blue sapphire dots. If this is new for you, in whether you're attending here live or watching the recording, if you haven't seen auto climate before, the blue sapphire dots, if they're solid, means a confirmed uptrend. If they're red and solid, there's a confirmed downtrend. So currently we're in no man's land, where there's no confirmed uptrend or downtrend, and so what we have is probably emerging some sort of sideways market, but we all need to see. And so if we want to go long or go short at these lower time frames, that's still a valid action. But what you really want to avoid is, if it's going to be a sideways type of trading action, is to trade kind of things in the middle. You want to focus on the extremes. And so this is potentially also a point at which we just want to watch, right, to see if prices can break below. If they do come back into 1725, that could be an area where we want to try buying, right? If these other areas of testing still hold, right? And so if we do that, could certainly look at the risk and reward of such a long position. Okay, and so if you do go all the way up to this UF area of selling. Yep, it's like a 4 or 5 to 1 sort of trade. On this sort of move, and your risk is about 30 pips here. Right? So not too bad. I mean, that's an acceptable risk. And so if you're going to do even like a 2 to 1, right? Still within this whole range here of movements on the euro. Okay. Does anybody have any sort of questions on what I've just talked about so far? Is it all kind of making sense, or am I going too fast? Okay. All right. Feel free to stop me at any time. Okay. All right. So euro is kind of sideways at the moment. Okay. Let's take a look at Aussie. Still holding, still holding this trend line here. All right. Okay, so if we're looking at the Aussie, where are some of those opportunities to buy? Looks like we have some areas here. Kind of around this area, and if we throw in the order UFOs, it gives us a sense of where the app is directing us towards. So this is a prior area of sell orders up here, originating up here. So we have some new areas of selling interest. Here. Okay. If we look at big picture, okay, we're again coming into these areas of selling interest. So for us to really go short, we need to see a pause and then a definite change in the auto climate from blue to red, right? And until that happens, we have a bias to the upside, and so this was an area here, right, where there was some buying interest, potentially that could come into the market. So even though if we have a trend line break here, we could anticipate prices to move in this sort of fashion, right? And that's a potential, right? It's also a scenario of this occurring, right? And we could also have prices move lower, right, and start to do this as well. Right. Okay. So these are scenarios that we can start to look at here. So waiting to probably see for some Aussie weakness to come in. It'd be similar for the New Zealand. Some weakness to start to come in here. Okay. We see some testing of these prior highs before, so very similar reason why we're going to get some selling pressure coming in right up at these areas. Pound still looking quite strong. The CAD and the yen. Okay, so the yen, we're starting to see some weakness coming in. So if we look at the order UFOs, this also helps us identify an area where the dollar yen is going to have problems moving higher. I want to just get a little bit more detail on that. Yeah, then we see some of that pricing structure kind of come in and give us a little bit more clarity. All right, so we've got two areas where there'll be interest in selling. And then on the Swissy, going back to the higher time frame. Okay. We have a double bottom here and then potentially move higher. So that would indicate some dollar strength kind of coming back in after this weakness that we saw. And again, just looking at how the areas where there's some concentration of buy and sell orders. Right. Okay. But we really, looks like we really want to focus on some dollar strength kind of coming back into the market temporarily, right? Because we are seeing, you know, with the dollar, that movement lower, maybe getting a bit of a pause, right? So as we saw in the Swissy, definitely on the dollar yen, right? We see a bit more dollar strength. Dollar CAD, a little bit of Canadian strength coming in here. And of course the pound has been quite resilient of late. So with the euro kind of hitting a short-term area of selling. Yeah, New Zealand dollar. So the commodity, kind of look at the commodities on the New Zealand and the Aussie side, probably a little bit of weakness coming in there. I'll just remove this stuff here. Okay, so what does that tell us? Right? What that's really telling us is that we just want to be, you know, considering how the Aussie and New Zealand, right, this commodity currencies, whether there's going to be, you know, a little bit of a pause now, since we've had quite a strong run up, you know, over the last month. Are we going to have a pause back down to 70.50, right? Or definitively, if we see this trend line break, then we'll see that. So, you know, movement toward lower prices. But until then, we still want to have a bias to be long, right? So even if we do have this sort of pullback, you know, higher prices could be, you know, still on the cards. Right? Okay. So so just to kind of wrap up, let's go back to the slides here, and so kind of covered kind of tail end here of concepts, some high-level concepts, but also in the things that I'm going to be covering over the next coming weeks and months, not only here in FX Street, but also in a YouTube channel where you can also we're also going to be doing some sessions there. Some of the concepts I'll try and bring through will be the fundamentals. So for those of you who are new to trading, to currency trading, kind of introduce some of the fundamental sort of concepts that you need to understand. If you're kind of flight ready, I mean, you've already had some experience in the markets. You're still developing your expertise and your competencies, things like that. Really, kind of see yourself as a bit more like a first officer. You know how to flood plan, you know how to use a trading platform. That's not an issue for you. Then there will be some ideas and concepts that we will address for those of you at that level. And then even those of you who have been trading for a while, you know what's going on. How things work, but you're looking for something maybe a little bit more fresh, new concept, new ideas, to maybe new technologies to help you trade better, right? To help alleviate some of the manual sort of thinking or things like that. Then those aspects of things will is something that I'd like to highlight as well in these sessions that I have on FX Street. And so we'll try to we'll try to point out certain things relevant for each of these three types of attendees to the sessions that are kind of run here. Okay. Lastly, before I go, is I've got a new sponsor. Right, or actually, well, let me talk about the other sessions that we have. Right, so FX Street, we do have kind of outlined those earlier. If you do want to catch us on off weeks that we're not here with on FX Street, then you can go to our YouTube channel. So I'm back on the 18th before coming back to FX Street on the 25th, and then Oppa is on tomorrow, on the 12th and the 26th, and then Pedro on the 6th, and 6th is past, but on the 20th. Okay. All right. So so I do have a new sponsor that I just want to briefly share here. So that's Exante. It's European registered. They do have well-known partners, as well as multiple sort of opportunities to trade various markets, so not just currencies, but also futures, options, funds, metals, stocks, ETFs, bonds. So anything that you could really trade under the sun is on their through their accounts. All the technology is available. Desktop, smartphone, web trading. And even if you want to be more sophisticated into algorithmic trading or connect up your own systems to their APIs, then that's also something that's available. And so again, if you're interested in this, you can either click take a scan of the QR code, or if you just want to express your interest, then there are this QR code here. That you can just scan, and also that will take you to a link or a web page, I should say, where you're just able to put in your contact details, and we'll be able to get back to you later. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, it was a little bit more of an overview session today. You know, just to talk about some of the concepts and things that will be coming up in future sessions. Also talked a little bit about the markets in particular. I think Euro as an example, right, of what we're currently looking at the moment, and the opportunity that we're kind of seeing, which the three scenarios that we're kind of seeing, and how we're using auto UFOs to kind of help us set our expectations for where are those barriers, right, for price, but also those that provide us opportunities, and which is the way to you know, initiate a trade in the direction of the overall trend, which is still up, right? And therefore, the areas that you would be wanting to consider buying would be clearly on the 1 hour if you're a 1 hour trader, down at 116.55, but prices still need to get through 17.25, which is a tested area before. And so if you've got a sideways bias, then to buy at this sort of area and target the areas closer to 118.65 is also a valid analysis. But at the end of the day, price will tell you, where it's going to go and whether you were right in your expectations or not. Okay, so that's all I have for today. Thank you for joining the session. Hope to see you next time here with me on Nailing FX with FX Street. Okay, with that, I'll leave you get back to your day. Okay, all right. Have a good rest of the week as well, and trade safe. Okay, take care.